All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Lamed. So we got to the Mishnah. So the Mishnah starts off, Hashefech Mayim B'Shus Rabim V'Huzak Bahen Acher Chayiv Beniska. So we saw a similar case. Good morning. We just started.
Soft open.
Yeah, soft start. Shorter blot today, so I wasn't as nervous. This is a good place to start a little early, so you could stop there. With an option of doing a mission, tomorrow's Mishnah, but all right. I'll be traveling this week, so for work. So Hashavech Mayim, top of Daf Lamed. I'm sorry?
I like when you,
Yeah. Last time it is colonoscopy was last time, and then I'm going to Eretz at the end of this. Well, that's part of work. So Hashavech Mayim B'Shus Rabim, there's nothing else to do out there, right? So, I guess you could work. Hashavech Mayim B'Shus Rabim, who's like an acher, top of Daf Lamed. So one who goes ahead with a similar mission before. One is going to ask why we have two mishnayos. One who spills water into the public area, and somebody else becomes damaged. Chayiv beniska. One is obligated in the dam. The person who spilled the water is obligated in the damages. Hamatznias hakots, vesas chuchis, v'agoder gidra b'kaitzim, v'gader shenaf alishus rabim. So we also saw this quote from our Mishnah. One who goes ahead and he has thorns or glass, on his fence or sticking out, or he had a wall that fell into his rabbim, and it causes damage to others. We just started. He is chayiv in this damage. So that was the Mishnah, right? We have similar. We quoted this earlier. We had a similar Mishnah earlier. So Amar Rav says Rav Loishan the nitfu kelav b'mayim. We're talking about damage to the person's clothes. Let's say they became damaged to the water. But if he himself fell on the ground, slipped, pater. He is pater. Why? Karka olam hizikaso. Right? It was the ground, the hard ground that he fell on, that caused the damage. So Amar le Rav Huna Rav. So says Rav Huna Rav. Reef show. Right? Shouldn't be his mud. In other words, if he's keeping the water, so now the dirt in the water is now mud, and he falls on the mud and he injures himself on that. So the Gemara says, who says that the water didn't go ahead and absorb in the ground? No, there is no standing water. The water absorbed in the ground, and therefore it's the ground caused it. So the Gemara says, it's hard to lamali. Why do you have two cases? We have a very similar Mishnah called about earlier. So the Gemara answers, one is referring to in the summer, and the other one is referring to the winter. The Tani, when everybody says, the Garfin Amarusehem, person can go ahead and throw out their water or their gutters, let it run out into the sewage out into the streets during times in the winter. It's always wet out there, so it could be permissible during the rainy season. Then
the other Mishnah that it's referring to was the one where a person had a pitcher and the pitcher broke and it had water.
That's right. Identical case. The person's water in the Rosh Hashanah, which is our Mishnah also. First line of our Mishnah.
Yeah.
Right? So Gemara says, why do you seemingly two cases? So it says, no, one is summer, one is winter, because in the summer it's forbidden. He wants to get shamim during the winter, during the rain season. Yesh reshus. Then the person does have the permissibility to pour out his water in the public way. The yafal pisha reshus, even though he's allowed to, miziko chayiv l'shal. If he causes damage, then he's responsible to go ahead and pay.
What makes it allowable? Even in the winter. No, if it's being liable, then what makes it? What do we allow?
In other words,
it's kind of strange Russian.
Well, we say also, there's machlekes whether the person is mafkir his water if he doesn't want, if he doesn't want it anymore, which the Chara in that case, right? So then would we be putter or not? So there's right. So why would one be allowed to? Because normally, I guess you're allowed to do something. All right. What is he? Good. All right. Not here.
So it's saying, even in the winter,
Then you're chayiv. Then you're chayiv for if you soil someone's, clothing. Yeah, no, okay. I thought, is that frozen? Yeah. Oh, well. All right. So next case, which we also saw earlier, Hamatznias Hakotz, person goes ahead and he has thorns and he puts it, by up on his fence on his side, not the other side. So Amra, Sam same. Hello. Okay. We're only talking about if it's sort of sticking out. But if it's mitzam same, then lo my timer. So my timer potter. So Ravacha bar Davika. If he's shading dark shel bnei adam, he's chachek salam. Because if it's just on his side and the person has to rub up against the wall, it's not the normal derech way for a person to rub up, against the wall, right? Unless you're like 6 years old and you walk up with your coats, against all the cars and all that, right? But it's not the normal way for a person to go ahead and walk up against the wall. So therefore, if there's something protruding, you are putter as long as it's within your rishus. And Tana Rabbanan, Hamatzniya Kaisav Zuchasav L'Sei Kaisav Shalchavero. Person goes ahead and he puts in thorns or glass within a wall of his friend. His friend is building a wall. Overnight, he comes in, puts in glass and this and that, shards. He didn't know what to do with these dangers. He put them in there. The guy finished the wall, never knew about it. Well, then years later, years later, the person who owns the fence goes in, tears down his fence, falls into Shizarabim. When it causes damage, his glass, the neighbor that hid the glass in there caused damage to somebody. The person who put in the glass is chayiv. And we're only talking about the reason it's chayiv is because let's say it was a crooked wall, a broken wall, something that was known
we had glass in
to be coming down soon. But if it was a good wall, could have stood for 100 years,
right.
How much near putter? Then the person who put it in there is putter because it never really should have come out. The chayiv balakaisa, then the owner of the wall is obligated. And Amar Avino, Zaysameres, Machasa Baro Bedalav Shal Chavero, Uba Baldali Vinatal Dalyav. So in this case, now the chayiv this would be similar to a case. I'm just finishing my lunums. So one who goes out and digs a pit, I dig a pit, and I take Mark's cover. He has it by his house. I take his cover and I use it to cover my pit. And then Mark says, "Where's my cover?" He says, "Oh, it's over there." So he takes the cover off the pit that I dug, and there's just a rabbit. Okay. Chayiv Balabor. The owner of the pit is Chayiv. Right? So just like the other case, when I went there and put in the hazard, right? It's my responsibility. So it's over here, in this case, I put in the hazard. Mark took the cover away, and I'm chayiv for this pit. So it says pshita. I'm sorry? When I took it.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't ask you I can cover. I just took your cover to use it to cover it. And then you took it back, rightfully so. So Ma'al Demojiv said, Hasimhu Deloy have Yadile Deladuye. Maybe over there it's a little different. Why? In the case of the fence. So the case of the fence, I went there and I put the glass in without telling anybody. So therefore he had no reason to tell me, "Hey, Yoel, I'm taking down the fence. And you better, make sure your glass is cleaned up." But in this case, but in this case, when Mark took off the cover, he saw that the pit was going to be uncovered, and therefore maybe there should be a taina against Mark. Say, "Hey, Mark, you should have told Yoel that the pit was going to be open because you were taking your cover back." So Kamash Malon, we don't say that. Since I took it without permission and I dug the pit, therefore I'm chayiv. And Taner Rabbanim Chasidim Arishonim Hayu Matzniin Kitzosayim Seichsayim. The Chasidim people who went the extra mile, who were righteous, used to go ahead and bury their glass and their thorns underneath the ground. And they would take it more than 3 tefachim below the ground in order that shouldn't even come up when the fields are plowed. And therefore, they're like, put away for good, in order not to cause damage. Rav Sheshes Shadilu Benora, he used to go ahead and burn them. Rav Shadilu Bediglas, he used to go ahead and the tigers. And Amar Rav Yehuda, Haiman the boy Lemihavi Chasida. You want to be a chassid, go extra distance. The Kayim Mile Denizikin. Go ahead and fulfill the the words of the Babas, which is called Nezikin, Mesechus Nezikin, and therefore you won't go ahead and follow the rules of Chaysh Mishpat in order to avoid damage to others. Rav Amar Milid Avos, you want to become a chassid, go ahead and learn the words of Pirkei Avos. Remember that some say Milid Brachos, right? You learn the halachas of brachos. That will help one become a chassid. The Rashba has a different shot over here, but for lack of time, we'll just I'll throw it in. All right, so the Rashba says that it's sort of a unique thing that saying the words of Nezikin. So it really means this which was taught in Nezikin. You want to be a chassid, go ahead and bury the things. What does it mean by avos? So it says over there, who's a chassid? And in Pirkei Avos, says who chassid. It says someone who says what's mine is yours, and what's yours is yours. That's the midah of a chassid. So you want to be a chassid, do that, or you can be a chassid by doing that which it says in Mesechus Brachos, which says that the Chassidim Rishonim used to go ahead and be, an hour before davening would prepare. That's how you become a chassid. Fine. Mishnah. Hamaitzias tivno v'kashu, which is a rabbim, the zvalim. Person goes ahead and takes out his straw, his processed straw. Please, shkoyach. Actually, do we have hot water? I'll just take regular plain hot water. Shkoyach, thank you.
Me too.
You just throw in that cup.
Yeah.
Huh? Just the weather change. I feel fine just my voice. So, person goes ahead, he takes out his straws, unprocessed straw, and there's just a rabbim in order for people to walk on it to become manure, fertilize. But who's going to acher and cause the damage? Chayiv beniska. There's chayiv and damage, but and whoever goes ahead and takes it can acquire it. He can take it. If the person leaves it out, he left the straw, I can take it. Anyone who puts damaging things out, she's a rabbim, and it causes damage, chayiv l'shalom, he has to go ahead and pay. And whoever goes ahead and takes it to be Zaycha, we'll soon see what Rav Gamliel is adding to the Tanakama. And the third case, which we've seen earlier, which is a rabbin, one who goes ahead and moves around dung, which was left, which is rabbin by somebody else, and now he moves it to a new location. Who's dog by an acher, and someone else becomes injured by it. Chayiv benisko. The person who moved it, he is chayiv now. He's like the new owner, quote unquote, to place the galal there. Now, zok the gemara. Salei must need to look Rabbi Yehuda. Let's say missions like Rabbi Yehuda. Ditatne with the Bryce Rabbi Yehuda. Aimer. B'shas haitzes zvalim. Adam might see zivlo l'shus harabim. V'tzarro kol shloishim yom kadei sheyeh nishu v'ragli adam v'ragli behem. So it says during the time when when people are making manure, you go ahead, you can take it out to the Shus Rabbim, leave it there in order for people to tread upon it, people and animals. Because on this condition, that's why we inherited the land to go ahead and able to do this. And afilu tema. So now, what do you see over here? Rabbi Yehuda allows one to go ahead and put out. And like Alan was saying, if you're allowed to do something, then you should be patur from damages. So Gemara says, afilu tema Rabbi Yehuda, even if you say it's Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yehuda, if one goes ahead and causes damage, nevertheless, even though he was allowed to go ahead and put it out there, he still is chayav to go ahead and pay. Now we learn clearly in another mission, says Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Benir Chanukah Pater Mipnei Shehu B'Rishus. If I'm allowed to go ahead and put out my menorah, and if my menorah goes ahead and causes damage, let's say the fire catches because you bumped into my menorah, which I put outside my house, which I have permission to do, and it causes damage, I'm Pater Mipnei Shehu B'Rishus because I put it out, I have permission. So my law Mishum Rishus based. If is not, we see this as because you have permission from based in, i.e. Dinei Mamanos. This is low Mishum Rishus mitzvah. No, because it's a mitzvah to put it out there. So therefore, that's the reason why you're patur. It's not because it's halachically right? A mitzvah in mammon and mitzvah in kesef. Rather, it's a mitzvah because I have a mitzvah. The Tanya we're going to write Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Chanukah pater mipnei shehu rishus mitzvah. So it says clearly because rishus mitzvah, so it's not comparable to our case of just rishus because that's rishus mitzvah. So Tashma, come and listen. All those that say that you're allowed to go ahead and put something damage in rishus rabbim, but if it causes damage, you have to be paid. Rabbi Yehuda pater. Rabbi Yehuda says you're pater because you're allowed to do it. So, what do you see over here? You see clearly our Mishnah cannot be like Rabbi Yehuda because Rabbi Yehuda says once you're allowed to do something, then you're pater from its damage. And number of Nachman Masnisin Shaloi B'Shas Tzas. No, maybe our Mishnah is doing time when not when it was permitted. It was during the dry season when you weren't allowed, or a time when people were not making the manure, and that's why you're chayiv. Rabbi Yehuda, and therefore you can say our authors of Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda. Or Rav Ashi Omar, Tivna of the Kashu, Tanan, Mishub, the Misharki, right? No, it's talking about processed or full straw because those things are slippery. Those are slippery items, and therefore those cause damage that you're chayiv for. But things that aren't normally slippery or dangerous, therefore you'd be cut. So kol and whoever goes ahead and you want to finders keepers, you want to go ahead and pick them up, right? It's yours, up for grabs. Some Rav. Vein begufon, vein b'shivcha. So says Rav. So let's say the straw is worth $30, and when it comes to manure after it's tread upon, it's worth $100. So, and we say if you want to go ahead and pick it up, take it. You can take it. So a person goes in and takes it at the end. I can keep $100. And Ziri Omar and Ziri says the shivchan. We're talking about only the shivchan you can go ahead and take. Of Allah bekufa, but not the goof. In other words, what? In other words, if I go ahead and pick up the $100 manure, so I have to go ahead and pay the $30 to whoever owns the straw. I put my straw out there. Well, yeah, thank you for your straw. Here's $30, but I'm going to keep the shevach, and I don't get the goof. So Rav says you lose everything. And Ziri says you only lose the shevach, the improvement that would have been made for it to be in the public way. So what's the machlokes here? So Rav saver kansel gufon b'shum shivcha. Rav says it's a kanas, right? You shouldn't have put it out there, and therefore because it's potentially cause damage, and therefore since you put it out there, you lose it all. Ziri saver like kansel gufon b'shum shivcha. No, since you're allowed to do it, you don't lose the shevach, only the kanas, right? Only the improvements. I mean, only the shevach.
No, not Rav. Who said it?
Ziri.
Oh,
Ziri says, "Look, gufa. We don't. The principle is not penalized because of the improvements. You lose the improvements, but not the principle."
The person who's putting the straw out and Shus Rabin, he's being master.
No, he's going to take it back. He wants to take it back.
Oh, he wants
because he wants it to become manure. He wants people to tread upon it and walk upon it.
But because it's in Rishus Rabin,
you got to take a risk. If you want to use the public's help, that's fine. But A, someone could take it, and B, also if you cause damage, you're going to have to pay. So it's at your own risk.
Well, even if you're mafker something in Rishus Rabin, if it originally belonged to you and it causes damage, you're chayav. I mean, that's the principle of bor.
That's the question. Is the question of bor.
right.
But he wasn't mafker. He was not mafker.
Oh, he wasn't.
He's not. He wants to take it back.
So according to Rav, if you look at the Rabbi, you really don't need to be machlis. You can just take it. Only the thing that
Ziri says
the
Mishnah says you can take it. The Mishnah says you can take it. The question is, do you have to pay the guy for a straw or not? Now, so let's see. Tanan. Thank you so much. He says, so the third part of our Mishnah said, right, you go ahead and you move the dung that was left in Shus Rabbim. Now dung is already basically manure, right, and you don't need to process it at all. There's no improvements that's be done to it. So it says over there, you cause damage, you're chayiv. But it doesn't say, hey, whoever, if someone wants to go ahead and take it, you can take it. It doesn't say that. So in this case, it doesn't say it. So what does it sound like? Who is the one who said you cannot go ahead and take if it's just the goof and not the shevach? That's Ziri, right? Ziri says the goof is still yours, right? So this sound, according to Rav, you lose out on the goof also. So let Rav say in this case, kol hazaycha, right? Kol hazaycha, right? You should be able to take it away. So Gemara says, no, Tyler Reish will doing the sefer. No, maybe when it says kol hazaycha is referring to not only the Reish but also the sefer. Aiva Tanya Lot says over there, asur mishum gezel. We have another price that says it's also because of gezel taken.
Right.
So Gemara says no. Kikitani asur mishum gezel akula masnis. It's going the entire mission of
So that's why I ask. There is no any like machriz that he found something. It's not hal on it. You have to announce. If you say something,
right.
bundle of straw,
right?
You announce who is this belong to. If you don't announce, and according to Rav,
no, you leave it out. You don't have to say whose is this. Or I'm taking. You know, someone put it out there.
It's not an aveda. It's not some lost.
Right. It's not a lost object. Right. So Gemara says no. Maybe over there. So Kitan Yasur Mishum Gezel Akula Masnisin Kai. So Gemara says no. It doesn't mean it's going in the entire mission. It means that maybe it says there's no problem of Gezel. In other words, there is a problem of Gezel. In other words, once that person takes it, I can't take it from that person who picked it up. The person number two can't take it out. That's awesome shum gezel. But kol kaidim zacha. But the Gemara says no, that's not pshat. Oh look, Tani Hachi doesn't say this. The Tanai we learned in the Mishnah that says Hamaitzi tevna b'kasher l'shis rabim. One who goes in and takes out his straw, his whole straw, processed straw, which is a rabim, is developed in order for it to become manure. The husak by an acher, someone comes damaged. Chayev b'nisko. You're chayev in the damage. And whoever goes ahead and takes it can take it. And it's permissible because of gezel. Now the next case, a person goes ahead and moves around dung, which is a rabbin, and someone becomes damaged, the other mishum gezel, and this is asr mishum gezel. So it's clearly a different case. So yeah. So Amar Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, Gola Koramis. Well, you're asking in case of Gola to Tevin. Davar Shish B'Shevach Kinsu Gufo Mishum Shivcho. Davar Shish B'Shevach Lo Kinsu. In the case of the straw, you put out the straw. Why you want it to become improved? So therefore, we don't really want you doing it. So therefore, if you put it out to get improved, you're going to lose the principle. Over here, you're not putting out the dung in order for it to get improved. So therefore, you don't lose out of the principle. There's no reason to add a kanas, says Rav. So therefore, it's not a shayla. So it's not a fair comparison. So you boil okay, let's ask another question going to Rav. The Divra, according to the opinion, i.e. Rav, who says that we penalize the principle because of the improvement. So the alter kansina, is it even right away? He puts it out from day one before it improved yet. It's still worth $30. Or only after it starts to improve. So Tashma, so let's come and listen. Karina and Galal. Well, let's learn from the fact that we try to ask a case of dung. A case of dung, there was no improvement. So no improvement is the same as putting out for improvement that didn't improve yet. So l'chayra, it's the same thing over there, and therefore you say you're not allowed to take it. All right, now right, you don't lose out. Does that make sense? Karina and Galal. No, we only asked about dung before the Rav Nachman gave the teretz. However, the Bas Shani Rav Nachman, after Rav Nachman gave the teretz, right? You can't ask that question at all. So no, it's not a good comparison. We can't learn from there. So Lema Kitanai. Let's say this machlokes Rav and Zeiri is a machlokes Tanai. So we say Shtar Shekasaba Ribis, coincidence of any Gavilas, a Karen Velosa Ribis, Divramer. Says our mayor, we know this halacha, you can't go ahead and land an interest in a normal situation. Now, I go ahead and I write up a shtar. I borrow $100 from Yigal, and it says I'll pay back $110. So we find this document. So not only does Yigal cannot go ahead and collect his extra the ribbons, the $10, but it can. We penalize him. Can't even collect $100. Thank you, Yigal, for your donation. The He says no. Goyves a Karen of Aloyas Ribs.
Aren't they both higher?
Yeah.
So now you lose that.
Right. Well, you can't. Right. Yeah.
You're gaining, or you did wrong also.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see in Bamatzia when we get to that period.
That's a penalty in a way.
So according to Chachamim,
You know what a penalty?
right? It's a penalty, like Rav. And according to the Chachamim, you don't get the interest, but you get your principal back. That's according to Chachamim. So Lema Rav Damakar Meir. Let's say Rav is like Rameir, right? We penalize the goof because of the Shevach. We penalize the Karen because of the Ribbis, right? Mm-hmm. And according to Ziri Damakar Rabbanan, who says, you know what, you just get your money back, but you don't get anything extra. So Rav said, you know, I could take like the Rabbanan. I'd kind of like a Rabbanan Hasam Ela Karen the Behatera, right? There's nothing wrong with the principle itself, right? If you lend me the principle and I'll give you the principle back, there's no big deal there, right? But in this case, Karen, Gufa, Kamazik. But in this case, the Karen, there's something intrinsically wrong with it. It could be a damaging item. So therefore, since it's damaging, right, that's what we're talking about. It can cause damage in the public way. So therefore, maybe there's a reason why I would lose out on the Karen. Zir would say, I could say the Rameir. I'd kind of like come to Rameir Hasam Ella, the Bashas Ksiva, the Shuma. In the case of the Karen, right, when we read the document, that's when we already went wrong, right? It wasn't once I started paying the interest. Once we made the deal, right, we made the document, that was the wrong. So therefore, at that point, I should lose out on my Karen. But in this case, who said my straw is going to cause any sort of damage, right? Maybe the whole thing will be bad there. There was never damage caused. Therefore, there's no harm, no foul. So therefore, maybe there's no reason to punish me, said Ziri. So therefore, I can keep my goof. So Lema kind of tonight. Okay, let's say it's different place tonight. How might he team Navakasha Lushis a rabbin? One who goes ahead and takes out his straw, and this is a rabbin in order for it to become dumb. Who's like an acher, and then someone becomes damaged. Chayben is chayben nezek. We call it chayden ben zaka, and whoever wants to go ahead and take it can take it. Vasur mishum gezel, and it's usher because of gezel. Shimon Gamliel Leimer, call him a calculum, which is a rabbi v'zikin chayav the shalim. The chol chayden behen zaka. Umutar mishum gezel. And it's mutter because of gezel. So what do you mean it's mutter because of gezel? Maybe it means that you could even take the goof. According to this one, which should be like Rav. And according to the first one, Asher mishum gezel is referring to Ziri. So Gemara says, no. Hakufa kashin. This price doesn't make sense. Amata kol kaidem hem zacha. First you say whoever wants to go ahead and take it can take it. But then you say it's us because of gezel. How do you even make sense of that one line? Elalav, rather not. Haki kamar. This is what it means to say. The kol kaidem behen zacha. B'shivchan. Maybe means whoever goes ahead and takes it, the shevach, the improvements, he can go ahead and take it. The asurim b'shum gezel. A gufan, and that which he says us because of gezel is the goof itself, not the improvements. The yasram shengamil lemeimer afilu gufa nami, even the gufa nami kolakayim behen zacha, and therefore, and it comes over shengamil and say no, and even the goof you can go ahead and say kolakayim behen zacha. So according to Ziri, so according to Ziri, it's about the machlekes tanaim, and he's according to say there's the machlekes. And Rav, but according to Rav, says me lema tonight. Who says machlokes tonight? Maybe Rav would say everyone agrees to me. You lose out on the shabach and also the goof. And I'm Rav the kuliyama kansu gufa mishum shivchan. The hachda the halacha of erimari can come iflagi. Over here we're arguing as to whether you can go ahead and say this the halacha. In other words, that really you can go ahead and take it, but we don't want to tell everybody. Hey, by the way, if you see it out, you're allowed to keep it, right? So in other words, it means that which it says, whoever wants to go ahead and keep it, because that's the halacha. And then we say, the asur and the shum gezel is that's how we want our, the rabbis to teach, or from the pulpit. In other words, not to tell people to do this, but the mindset if they do it, they can keep it.
So let me ask you another question. How do you know that somebody put it there or it dropped from his truck or donkey, and you don't announce to begin with?
So you never know. The announcing over here is referring to what you say in shir. Someone asks you a shiloh. Hey, I saw there's straw on the road. Can I go ahead and pick it up and keep it?
Okay, so then there is a
that. So over there is saying you can't pick it up. Okay, but if someone does it, you're allowed to keep it. That's the law.
So there is
according to Rav, that's what he's saying. Everyone can go ahead and keep it. But Rav is just saying, don't teach the halacha, they can go ahead and keep it, because everyone will just be going out looking for free straw in the streets. And the Itmar, Ravuna Amar Halacha ve'ein Morin King. Ravuna is the name of Rav. This is the halacha. However, we don't teach everybody this law. Ravad Rav Amar Halacha Morin King. No, this is the halacha, and you could teach the law that if one goes ahead and sees it, you can go ahead and take it away. I behol Ravuna, right? Ravuna is the name of Rav. After Chushli, he made hefker people who left out barley, and he says, "Oh, whoever wants to go ahead and can take it." Ravada Barava, he afkir slikusasa. He says someone who left out this residue from dates can go ahead and keep that. So Bishlam Ravada Barava Kishmaitz. So Ravada Barava makes sense because he says this Allah can keep it and you can teach it. But why did Ravuna? Why did he say that if you want to go out and take it? I thought he just said, "In Morin, can you tell people they're not allowed to take it? And if they do it, they're allowed to keep it because in Lamaisa they're allowed to. But we don't teach people they're allowed to do it. So why did Ravuna go ahead and in that case say it was hefker? So Leiman Bahadur Bey, let's say he was chayzer. So Gemara says no. Hanu mutar hafu. These people, they did it all the time. They put it all the time. They warned him, "Can you please stop putting the parking?" So I'm allowed to do it. You can't stop me from doing something that I'm allowed to do. So therefore, he says, you know what? Okay, you want to, push back at us, we'll push back at you, and announce that if anybody wants to keep it, by the way, since it's left out on the road, you can go ahead and keep it.
Sign won't help, don't touch, or step on it, don't take it.
Right, yeah.
This way people know it's not after.
Yeah.
We're very concentrated on the person with the straw. But the dung without by itself is worthless. The straw and by itself is worthless. And only the putting together of both items gives it some value.
Right. I think it's the straw combined with I guess it turns into manure, I guess, by being treaded upon and the mud and whatever. The compost.
Without the straw, there was no dung.
Right.
It wouldn't
be
worthless.
It would just be worth straw. Right.
So I don't understand why we're also concerned with the person who put out the dung.
Right. So the case was, if a person puts out dung, that's definitely a mazik, and there's no reason to do it. So the case of it wasn't someone who put it out; it was someone who moved it. Right. So the chiddush over there was Avadi was someone who puts it out. He puts it out for no reason, and the only reason for it to be out there is the only thing that can come out of it causes damage. So then you're for sure chayiv, right? Putting a hazard in the road, just like a boar, right? The case of the dung was I moved the dung. So is it now my dung because I moved it, or I could say, hey, I just moved it. That's why the Gemara before was within 3 tefachim, right? So in the Kamash Malon, it's still considered to be as I would put out in the first place, or is it like a person who there was a pit and I filled in the pit and then I undug the same exact pit? Do I say, hey, this is the original guy's, or is this now my pit, right? But in the case of the dung, it has nothing to do. The case of the straw could be different because maybe I put it out for a reason, and therefore maybe there's more of a reason to say that I should be patur. So therefore that's for sure. So each one sort of carries, right? But if, carries a chiddush, right? But if it was just dung out in the way, then for sure it would be chayiv, and for sure anyone can go ahead and take it if they so choose to take that was out there. All right, next mission. Mishnah says, Shnei Kedarim Shalim Halkin Zeh Acher Zeh. So there are two potters walking one behind the other. So the first guy trips the nafal. The niskal sheni barishon, and the second guy trips over the first guy. Right? Obviously, you're walking with pots, and once you fall, it's going to break, right? So harishon chayiv v'niske sheni. The first guy who fell is chayiv to go ahead and pay for the damage of the second guy because he shouldn't have tripped. We'll soon see. That's it.
He shouldn't fall.
All right. Well, let's see why he shouldn't fall. Right. That's what. Right. So Rav Yochanan. Sorry.
And if something causes him to trip the first guy.
So right now, the chor we're talking about, he just tripped on his own. Yeah, he tripped on his own.
Today,
Good
no
question.
matter what,
Right, this
the
is right.
second car hit the first car.
In Illinois, right? Right.
So the second car always guilty, not the
Right.
first car.
That's
The first car have to cover.
Illinois, yeah.
The second car cover for the first car, even if he just breaks suddenly. So it's the opposite of
Yeah.
this. Totally the opposite.
So right. Yeah, yes. The first guy caused the second guy to fall. The reverse on the first guy.
Right.
So Rabbi Yochanan, he don't say our missions like Rabbi Meir. He Amar Niskal Poshehu v'Chayiv. that the reason is because anybody who trips or stumbles, he is negligent, right? And that would be they were smart to say. The first guy was negligent by tripping, and therefore he tripped. He was on the ground, and he caused somebody else damage, right? Don't say, "Oh, it's only according to Meiri." Elafilu Rabban, even according to the Amri Ainas too, Upater. Even according to Rabban, who say it's an Ainas. Person trips, it was an accident, right? And it's Ainas, and he's Pater. Over here, he should have gotten up, right? He should have gotten up and not been a tripping hazard for the second person. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, even if he couldn't have gotten up, he should have warned the guy. He says, "Oh, careful! I just fell. I didn't get up yet. I have a chance to get up yet." So he should have said something. Below, he's here, and therefore he didn't do it. He's chayv. Rabbi Yechon Amar came to lo have a lama, lo have a lahazir. Right? The Torah is, he said, "Look, the guy didn't have enough opportunity to stand up before the second guy, got to him. Then, if he didn't have time to stand up, then he doesn't really have time to warn the guy because he's busy trying to stand up. So therefore, it's not on him. If it was so instantaneous, right, that he didn't have an opportunity to stand up before the second guy would trip over him, then he also doesn't really have the opportunity to warn the guy. So Tanan,
if he would have had opportunity to warn him,
Then
that's the reason why he's tired.
let's see. So that was one of the svars. One of them said he should have gotten up. He didn't get up. He's chayav. The other one said he should have warned him.
Warn the guy,
Right, and therefore that's why, because he didn't do his chayav. So we're gonna see. So Tanan, a person was walking with a beam on his shoulder, and there was a person behind him walking with a barrel. Now, when a barrel and a beam come in contact with one another, the barrel breaks and the beam is good. Okay, so it's not like two same things. It's a person's carrying a beam. A beam. The person behind him is walking with a barrel. So
and he
that could break.
walked into his
So
beam.
if I walk fast and I walk into the beam in front of me, then my barrel is going to break, right?
Yeah.
If he stops and I walk into him, my barrel is going to break, right? So both times the damage is going to happen to the second person, to the Baal Chavis. Now, let's see. So Nishbra Chavis, if the guy behind him is just walking fast and he walks into the Kairos, putter. If the person with the beam stops,
Without warning.
Chayiv, then he's chayiv. So my lav shama the kasef to orchehu. So maybe it's like this. Really, now it's a normal person carrying a beam to take stops in order to sort of readjust it on his shoulder. Now, what should he have done here? If I'm stopping, I should warn the person behind me.
He didn't warn.
But I did it, right?
So
my lav shama the kasef, Viktani chayiv, right? And it says over there he's chayiv. Why is he chayiv for stopping? It's normal to stop. It's normal to walk 100 feet in the public way and readjust, right? So why should I be chayiv? It's orche. So the havi leila hazir. Maybe I should have warned him. That's why I'm chayiv. So you see, warning is sufficient. If I could have warned somebody, but I didn't, now there's liability. Maybe so. We see that the warning is something liability.
How about the back of our car?
So the guy says, "Lo, shabbat
How
lafish."
about in Rishus
It belongs to whoever's rishus.
It's not at fault.
When you walk on a pathway, it's custom that you say, "I'm to the right." when you go with the bike. So there is a warning issue. That's the point. The warning.
Car back, right? They said, "Look, shabbat lafish." No, we're talking about where he took an abnormal stop. He just stopped for no reason. But if he stands normally, my pater, then he's pater. So Adatani Seifa. Why did it say in the Seifa? If he tells the other guy to stop, then he's pater. In other words, if he goes ahead, he tells the other person to stop, and then he's pater. Even talking about a case without warning the person telling him to stop, he's only chayiv when he's going to just take a break for no reason. But he's doing something normal like readjusting, then he should be pater. So Gemara says no. No, it's coming to teach us a chiddush that even though he's stopping for rest, which is really abnormal, but once he goes ahead and gives him a warning, hey, by the way, I stopped, careful, then he's pater from any sort of liability. So Toshma, come on, listen. Hakadorim as if you let's say you have people also carrying delicate things, potters or people with glass. Shahayu mahalchin zacher zeh, we're walking one after the other. So Niskal Arishon, here comes a big stumble. So one guy falls over, the Nafal, and he falls down. The Niskal Hasheni, and the second person trips on the Rishon, and the first person. Bashlishin, there's a third person. Basheni, he trips on the second person. Yeah. So Rishon Chayiv, the first person is Chayiv Beniske Sheni. He's Chayiv the damage to the second person. Basheni Chayiv Beniske Shlishin. The second person is Chayiv the damage to the third person. However, it's because of the first person, then Chayiv Beniske Kulam. Then the first person is Chayiv in all of them. He zeros at Zeh, but if they warn the others, and then the guy still didn't stop and adhere to the warning, then Pturim. Then he's Pater. So my lav Shalohem Lamud is it not that you didn't have time to go ahead and stand up, and that's why he's Chayiv, and now he's still Chayiv. So this is low. No, he had the opportunity to stand up. He didn't stand up, and that's why it's chayiv. But if he didn't have time to stand up, my putter would say if he didn't have, the first guy fell down and didn't have a chance to stand up, he would be putter. That's the case. At a tiny seifa, why did you go ahead and bring a second case in the seifa? If they warn one another, says careful not to trip over me, then he's putter from liability. Put in a case of where right he didn't have a chance. But when we didn't say anything. We're only talking about a case where you're chayiv, where you're able to stand. But if he didn't have the opportunity to stand, then pturin, then he's pater if he doesn't say anything. So Kamash Malon, the afagav the lama. No, come and teach you that even though that he had the opportunity to stand up, he zeros that pturin. No, once again, that even though he had the opportunity to stand up, he chose to just sit down and sort of laugh at himself. As long as he warns the other person verbally, then he is pater.
Make sure that they heard you.
Yeah, but let's say they heard you and they still right. They didn't adhere to it. So Amar Rava says Rava, Rishon Chayiv Beniske Sheni, Beid Beniske Gufo, Beid Beniske Mamayno. So the first person is Chayiv to the nezik, the second person, whether it's damage to his body, right? The person bangs his arm, or paying for his stuff that his utensils broke. Sheni chayiv beniske shlishi. The second person is chayiv because the third person should know the second person. Beniske gufo, he's only chayiv damages to his body. Avalo niske mamon, but not to pay for his kalim that broke. Now, of course, I understand. Rava, what's going on in Manavshach? If a person who stumbles is negligent to sheni naim chayiv, right? Then the second person is also negligent, so therefore he should be chayiv the first person. And he needs and if the tripping is not negligent, then the first person should be pater also. So why is there a difference between rishon and sheni? Right? If it's an accident, they're supposed to be pater. But if it's carelessness, then they both should be chayiv. So the Gemara says rishon v'adei poshehu. So this is sort of to the page. Right, this is sort of we were asking before, Mr. Panzer, right? So he said that Rishon Vade Pasheah, right? He's saying in this case, right, that person tripped. It was on him for tripping, right? He didn't trip over something. It wasn't, it was a problem. The sidewalk cracking the sidewalk wasn't his fault. Rishon Vade Pasheah. He was negligent for falling.
The second one,
yeah,
fall on the first one.
Yes,
damage him so badly. The first one, and probably even killed. Is still pater.
Who?
The second one. He killed the first one. He fell with a barrel right on the head.
No, there's three people here. The first guy tripped.
Yes.
Second guy tripped over the first guy. And the third guy, well, I mean, it was at fault, but just because he's dead, his estate would be chayav. Right? His estate would be chayav, right? Mm-hmm. So but it says so. Rishon v'adei pashehu sheni agufu mechayiv dahavi. But the second person wasn't his fault that he fell. The second person tripped over the first person.
Right.
The first person tripped over nothing. So the first person is really negligent. The second person was as negligent. He didn't.
Obviously, he fell, so something happened.
Who? The first person. He was negligent. That's what he was asking before. So the Gemara is assuming he didn't.
That's what we said.
I have walked before, unfortunately, let's say in a gym, and you sort of, your gym shoe hits like the floor, and you sort of like stumble a little bit, and someone says, "Oh, careful for the line," like making a joke that you tripped over like the half court line. So, of course not, but it's negligence. It's negligence. There wasn't a stumbling block in front of me. Right?
Saying they had some sort of.
So he has liability.
Because he should have avoided the first guy.
No, so we're saying but he does have liability towards the third person only in his body, but not his utensils. Now we're trying to understand why. So Shani, why? So the first person, right? Right. So now the second person is chayiv for going ahead and paying, right, for the damage that he caused, right, because he really should have stood up and he didn't. But he says, "I'm a minor potter." Right, but in terms of the other guy's money, right? So this pit that I basically became, right? I didn't go ahead and dig this pit. In other words, he didn't intentionally dig the pit, so therefore it wasn't really a pit that he dug. It was really caused by someone else. So therefore, when it comes to a pit, he's like Allah stands to a pit. A pit, you're chayiv for goof, but you're not chayiv for kalim. So therefore, the second person is chayiv for the goof of the person behind him, but he's not chayiv for the kelim. The Gemara says, I understand. Meisvei kulan chayavin al niskei gufan, u'pturin al niskei b'mainam. All them are chayiv for the nezek to the bodies and patur for the niskei b'mainam. So my lab afila rishon isn't even the first guy, and therefore we see the first guy should not be chayiv for the kelim of the second guy. So lo labar merishon, except no. Not the first guy, right? The first guy's chayiv for gufo too, right? Gufo and kelim. But that's perfectly the other. It says I kulam katani. It says kulam, right? Who are the kulam, right? Obviously, 2 and 1, so he should be included. So kulam hanizak. It means all of the people who are damaged, right? The first one wasn't damaged, right? Because he was lucky. He was the first one. He just tripped on himself. His stuff didn't break, right? He wasn't damaged by others. Second guy was damaged by the first, and the third guy was damaged by the second. So Gemara says, okay, it still doesn't make sense. If we're talking about referring to the first guy, so it makes sense why he says kula. My kulam, who is involved in, right? Lisni hanizaki, just say that people were damaged. So Elam Rava says, you're right. We're talking about over here, Rishon Chayev Bein Benisko, Bein Benisko Gufo, the Sheni. Ben Beniske Mama the Shady, right? He's chayiv whether it's the damage to the body of the second person or to the money of the second person. The Shady chayiv Beniske Shlishi Benisko Beguf Beniske Gufo Avaloi Beniske Mamona my timer the Havile Bor because he is a pit Veloy Matzinu Bor Shechai Basakel because he's now a bor and he's not chayiv Kalim. So Gemara says Hinichel Shmuel Damar Kolta Kolabor who this works well according to Shmuel who says that a bor could even be something, any sort of object in the public. That's a bor. That's a bor. El Rav the Omar iafkirein ilo lo. But according to Rav, it's only right if you made it hefker. Is it have a status of a bor? Otherwise, it's considered to be mamono, right? So, which is like a short, right? Which you are responsible for causing damage to Caleb. So, how could you call this person? Now, who's getting injured? What's causing the damage? The body of the second person. And you're calling him a bor that he's only chayiv in the goof of the third person, but not the kalim of the third person. Well, how is that so? So, iyafrein ilolo. But the second person is not making himself hefker. So he's not a bor according to Rav. According to Rav, a bor has to be hefker. I dig a pit and I leave it. I don't care about the pit left in the public way. So, in order to get the second person to be a bor, the guy that damages to the third person, he has to be mafker himself. And he's not, obviously, right? Yeah, so therefore, he's not according to Rav, he's not a bor. Michael Maimar. So the Gemara says, really, it's like what we said in the first place, right? That in other words, he's chayiv, that the second person is also chayiv only to that which he which he caused damage to the person. And that which it said over there, right? The lashon was kulam chayavim. So Tigron Avad Bar Menyume Kaved Ravina Shahusku Kalim BeKalim. We're talking about this. the first person, he fell, and the second person tripped over his kalim. So since it was his negligence, so therefore he's chayiv guf and kalim of the second person. The second person, right? So his utensils fell. The third person tripped over his kalim, right? Of the second person. Right. So regarding the goof, he's responsible for it. But regarding the kalim, his kalim are not chayiv to pay for the kalim of the third person. So therefore, that's why we're not talking about where the stumbling block was the person. Rather, the stumbling block was the kalim. And therefore, you're chayiv to damage to the person, but you're not chayiv to damage to his kalim. And therefore, you're part of that case. And so Omar Mar, and we said in there. So machmas rishon. So we say if machmas rishon naflu rishon chayv and say kula. So we said up there that's because the first person they all fell, then the first person is chayv for everything. So machmas rishon heki naflu. So how did they all fall on the first person? Right. The third person was behind the second person. How did he fall on the first person, not the second person? So Papa Omar the paskel orche kishlada. Right. So it said up there. Right, he fell, fell across sideways like he was some sort of a carcass, right? Kechutra and Rav Zvid Omar kechutra dismiyusa, right? He talked about over here like or something like like a staff of a blind person that goes across complete the roadway and therefore blocks the complete path, and therefore anybody crossing will fall over person number one, as opposed to the third person falling over person number two, the person number one, and that's the case where person number one is chayiv for everything. We'll stop here at the Mishnah. Shkoyach, everybody have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Chayiv for something always.
Always chayiv.